I'm super grateful for your patience and your understanding, King. I really do that. Word.
Anytime I can get a little bit of a time with you, man, it's a good thing, man.
Honor and a pleasure to have you make some time to even want to speak to me, brother. Real talk.
So a little earlier we were talking about that Kilimanjaro show.
Yes, sir.
And like I was saying, a lot of people, if they want to know what that was, I know I saw it on YouTube. They can pull it up on YouTube.
Yes, indeed, they can.
What's the difference between that Busta and this Busta?
There is no different. I'm just a wiser Busta. I'm just a much more experienced Busta Rhymes. I'm also 5 kids later as well.
I was about to actually get into that, man. What a lot of people don't get a chance to see, especially coming up back then. The only thing, because now everything is integrated. Like you see every aspect of people's lives, since these things.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, all the way up to the early 2000s, the only thing they know about is what you would share or what somebody took an actual picture of.
Right.
So they didn't get a chance to realize that you were actually raising children during this whole process.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I think that the Busta Rhymes that everyone has known to grow and love is directly by way of, or as a result, it's directly by way as a result of me not only having a child. At that time, I only had one when it was Leaders of the New School days.
Okay.
But I was also the first one in my group to have a child as the youngest member of the group.
I never knew you were the youngest.
I'm the youngest member in Leaders of the New School.
Okay.
And then on top of that, the group broke up.
Okay.
And well, no, the group didn't break up. They kicked me out. They stayed, they tried to continue to move as a group, but I was kicked out and left for dead. So again, this is in direct correlation with what I'm saying as far as the Busta Rhymes that the world has grown to know and love, being a direct result of me having my first child at a time when I was actually left to figure it out on my own and was scared to death because I couldn't get no money with Leaders of the New School no more.
Okay.
There was no group for me to be able to run around and perform the songs with that I had with them because all of the shows that we was being booked for was as a group.
Right.
So I couldn't show up to do not even just my verses because I wasn't being booked as a solo artist. So, I even tried to go do some of the shows and these niggas was like, we not paying you. Where the rest of your mans at? You feel me?
Right.
I was scared for a period of time because I didn't understand, I didn't know what I was gonna do to feed my child. And I actually have never taken on the responsibility of writing an entire album by myself.
Right.
So I didn't even know, or I didn't even really believe in myself enough to actually move forward with trying to go solo. So what I did was, being that I was so nice with scribbling my little one verse and jumping in and out of songs, for 16 bars, I pretty much by default and by accident pioneered the feature.
Right.
Because there was nobody jumping on everybody's records before me the way that I was doing it.
Okay. So after Scenario, after Leaders, what was the first feature you did?
Damn, that's a damn good question, brother. I don't remember exactly, but I know a lot of people know that Scenario was probably one of the first moments that they've really seen or heard me on a feature.
Right.
I was busting ass on features before that. I was on the remix for Nitty Gritty that KMD did.
Yep, I remember that.
I was on Come On, Get Down with Artifacts.
Yep.
I had jumped on
on Big Beat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I I was on Bunch of Niggas on Heavy D album. And that was actually
tonight, a bunch of niggas. Yeah.
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 That was on the Blue Funk album. And the crazy shit is that's the first Biggie feature. That's the first time the world heard Big. That came out before Party and Bullshit.
I didn't even realize it. You're absolutely right.
Real talk. That came out before Party and Bullshit, bro. So that's the first time the world ever heard Big. And, you know, I was starting to do my thing with the features, and Scenario really smacked it out the ballpark. That's when the world stopped for me.
Right.
So when the leaders put me out the group, the blessing of what Scenario did for me, it turned Busta Rhymes into the most sought after MC, because now everybody wanted what I did on Scenario. Niggas wanted the Dungeon Dragon. They wanted that row on all their records.
Right.
So for the next 3 years, while I was scared to go solo, I was rhyming on 3-4 features a week. And I was charging niggas anywhere between 7,500 and 15, 20,000 a verse.
Gotcha.
You multiply that shit times 3 or times 4, I was sexy than a motherfucker with the bread. I was still living in my mother's house.
But the baby was eating.
My baby was eating great. Crib. I was in my mother's crib. I was still with the mother of my child at the time, and I was providing, man, and I was proud because I was able to find a way to not only be a father, but a provider. You know what I'm saying? And I just looked at that opportunity as something that I'm gonna just run with this shit until the wheels fall off. And, you know, as I was getting my confidence, because I was just seeing how much people wanted this shit, that's when I started to figure out, all right, let me try this solo shit. But it's crazy because I actually had my solo deal from the minute I was kicked out the group, because Elektra Records, and the way we did the contract, we had to sign to Elektra.
As solo artists too.
As solo artists too. The groups broke up, everybody was still obligated to that company. And when the group broke up, well, when I got kicked out, I keep saying when the group broke up, when they didn't break up, they actually went up there to try to get the 3rd album option for Leaders of the New School without me in the group. But the way we broke up and the way we handled shit with the 2nd album, in the middle of the fucking promo campaign, we broke up. So we kind of hurt the success of that album directly by just poor choices and being petty and being young. Dante Ross, who was our A&R, who signed us at the time, when the group went up there to try to get the next option picked up for the 3rd Leaders album without me in the group, I was in L.A. shooting Higher Learning with Cube and Omar Epps. And I was living in the Oakwood Apartments, which is a fully furnished apartment complex on Hollywood Boulevard and Fuller Street in Hollywood, California. And Tupac was living in there with me in his own apartment, and Omar Epps was living out there with me in his own apartment. And Omar Epps had his barber, and he had Big Daddy Kane's younger brother, Little Daddy Shane, chilling with him while he was out there shooting Higher Learning with me. And so I was doing features and I was making a movie. And while I was shooting Higher Learning, I get a call from Dante Ross, and Leaders is in his office beefing with him because Dante Ross would not pick up the 3rd Leaders album option without Busta Rhymes in the group.
Stimulated Dummies, Dante Ross.
Stimulated Dummies, Dante Ross, and Leaders of the New School is Dante Ross, Gamble, and Geeby. Crazy shit is Gamble and Geeby just died recently. So the last Stimulated Dummy is Dante Ross.
Wow.
We gave Dante Ross, Gamble, and Geeby the name Stimulated Dummies, and he turned that into their production company name. And their production company office studio number in the building where they was at, it was number 50.
SD50.
We called them niggas SD50, you know what I'm saying? And it stuck. And so, you know, God bless Gamble, God bless Gebe. But the crazy shit is leaders come in the office at Electra in Dante's office, and they was beefing because they had found out at that moment when Dante told them that he wasn't picking up, or Electra wasn't picking up the third leaders album option without me, that I had just signed a deal for $250,000 to go solo.
Right.
And they called me beefing to me, like, how could I go behind their back and do such a fucked up thing? Which didn't make sense to me, because I'm like, y'all motherfuckers kicked me out the group, right? But this is the backstory that I need to add to this so that the dots connect, so you can understand why that logic would be the logic from Charlie Brown at the time. Before the first Leaders album came out, I got kicked out then. So I got kicked out the group twice. Before A Future Without a Past came out, I got kicked out. And it was over some stupid shit. I was hustling in the street at the time still. So, you know, when they used to do the Greek fests at Jones Beach in New York, and they used to do it in Philly, and you know, I believe they might have did it in different states. It would move.
Down in Norfolk here, down in Virginia Beach too.
Right, Virginia Beach too. So they would do Greek Fest in New York. They had it at Jones Beach in Long Island, not too far from where we lived at in Long Island at the time. And I was hustling, and I was getting money with dudes that I was, you know, that I knew in Brooklyn before I moved to Long Island. Mm-hmm. Because I had moved back to Brooklyn when I was 15, and I went to high school at George Westinghouse Technical and Vocational High School with Biggie and Jay-Z. And then I transferred to Tilden High School, and I went to school with special ed and Chip Food from the Fushnikins.
Got you. So,
you know, during that time, this is the Reaganomics era. The crack game was booming. So, you know, I was in mixing and mingling and all of that. I was hustling. I was selling crack. I was doing a lot of crazy shit in New York and out of state. We was in Richmond, VA. We was in Southeast DC. We was in West Baltimore. We was doing the all of the bullshit. So I'm coming back to New York with my money, and I used to get rental cars all the time so I could move and shake the way I want between Long Island and Brooklyn.
Right.
The Manhattan, go in the city, go to the clubs, all of that. So Greek Fest comes, and I think the bros got mad at me because I didn't want to be the designated driver to pick up and drop everybody off on the Jones Beach Greek Fest day. And, you know, so I was moving with a couple of other bros, and it became a problem that I didn't come and get them. So they was on some fuck you shit. You want to move around and act like you ain't repping the clique, and all right, well, fuck you. We vote you out the clique. All right, cool. I had this producer named Backspin from Brooklyn who actually lived in East Flatbush with me at the time that I met.
I remember Backspin.
And Backspin was helping me start a Busta Rhymes solo album. So I actually had more courage to do a solo album before the first Leaders album came out than I did after I got kicked out after the Time album.
Okay.
Why I got scared after I done put out 2 albums with the group. I think the pressure of the experience and knowing what people wanted from me in my group and being fearful of what I felt they might not want from me as a solo artist because they just know me from being in this group was nerve-wracking to me. So I think that's what kicked in the whole paranoia. But before the first Leaders album came out and when I got kicked out and I was fucking with Backspin, I had made Feminine Fact and I made Show Me a Hero. Those were the first 2 songs towards my solo album.
What was it? 240 pounds.
Now, yes, indeed. Right? That's Show Me a Hero.
Yeah.
Leaders got the deal because we had performed at a club called Payday in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and Dante Ross was there, but he was still A&R'ing at Tommy Boy Records. He wasn't Electra Records yet. You know what I'm saying? So when he saw us, he was on his way out from Tommy Boy. He was exiting Tommy Boy, and he was negotiating his deal to go to Elektra.
Because he did the Daylight. He A&R the Daylight album with Chris.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So he saw us after the show at the Payday Club and was like, yo, that motherfucker was incredible. I want to sign y'all. But I'm leaving Tommy Boy and I'm on my way to Elektra. So y'all gonna have to wait until I finish my business at Elektra. When my contract is done and I'm ready to sign artists and I'm able to sign artists, I'm gonna come for y'all. Dante and C. Brown exchanged information.
Okay.
And about 6-7 months later, when Nicole did come to sign us, I was already kicked out the group because of that shit at the Greek Fest with Jones Beach and me not coming to pick them up.
You didn't want to be. You didn't want to drive Miss Daisy.
Nah, I definitely didn't want to drive Miss Daisy, my nigga. I wasn't with the show for shit, and I ain't want the responsibility of burning all my gas up and driving and picking up everybody from different cribs and dropping them off, and then being by myself at the end of the night when I'm tired. So, they go up to Elektra. They go to the meeting. Dante calls them. When they get up there, and Dante told them. And they told Dante, because Dante asked where Bus at. And they were like, he ain't in the group no more. And Dante said, I want to sign what I saw with all of y'all together.
Right.
And if it's not going to be that, then the deal is off the table. So this is when I get the call from C. Brown. Hey, yo, man, you know, Dante called us and, you know, the offer is real. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, we about to make this shit happen. Do you want to be back in the group? And I was like, motherfucking right, I want to be back in the group. I want this deal opportunity too. But, you know, it dawned on me when we got off the phone, like, y'all ain't really wanting me in this group no more because if y'all could have got the deal without me, y'all would have moved on without me too.
Right.
But I put it behind me because, you know, at the end of the day, this is a dream come true moment for me. I don't want to let no bullshit, impulsive, emotional decision get in the way of me, you know. I didn't want to block my own blessing. You know what I'm saying? So I said, fuck it, let's go. But we negotiated. And I said, look, if I'm going to come back in this group, I done started a solo album already. I'm bringing my 2 songs to the table, which is Feminine Fat and Show Me a Hero. And that's the only way I'm coming back. They said, all right, cool. So Brown had did a solo song, What's the Pinocchio Theory? Dinkle did a solo song called My Dingaling.
Yep.
And they also had a track from Backspin that, you know, I brought all of these Backspin beats to the table, but they had this one track called Too Much on My Mind that they had recorded without me.
Right.
So that was the balance. It was like, you got 2 solo songs, cool. We'll have 1 solo song each in the one that we did together. So we got these looks to even out the 2 looks you're gonna have. And we finished the rest of the album together and go.
See, I never knew any, I just thought that y'all were all sitting there at the same time, banging all of these out together.
But we were for the whole album. The only time we wasn't is when I got kicked out the first time and I did the Feminine Fat and Too Much on My Mind and Show Me a Hero, and they did Too Much on My Mind without me. Other than that, every single song on that album, we were together, in the room together. And we actually wrote a lot of that album, the majority of that album, in Charlie Brown's crib in his bedroom, because Brown's bedroom was like a hip hop museum. Like, and you was able to smoke in his house. You know what I'm saying? His parents let the kids smoke in the crib, cigarettes and shit like that. So, you know, we smoke cigarettes, we drinking our 40s, and, you know, we writing these rhymes to these beats, and he got every fucking rapper picture on the wall. So we just looking at these niggas, and all the motherfuckers we want to be like, you know what I'm saying? And we smoking our cigarettes and shit, and we drinking our beer, and we writing. Like, Brown's room was, and embodiment of everything in hip hop at that time.
Yeah.
It was just the hangout. Brown's room at his crib was just the vibe. It was the vibe. It set the tone every time when we needed to do something concerning, you know, the creative space. So, you know, Brown felt like the leader of the group, and Brown felt like he was the brainchild of the group. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, true story, you know, Brown was kind of like the plug to meeting, you know, Chuck D and them, because Brown's family, Brown's older brother, DJ Higg, and Eric Vietnam Sadler was so close. They damn near called each other, they called each other cousins.
Okay.
And Eric Vietnam Sadler was always at Brown's crib, you know. And he was the main producer. He was the illest producer in the Bomb Squad. And it was him and Keith Shockley. But Eric Vietnam was the scientist. So because he was so close to Brown, Brown was the direct link to that relationship, which then led us to Chuck D and Hank Shockley. So, you know, Brown felt like he was responsible for all of this, and in a way he was, you know what I'm saying? So I can't front on him in that way. But, you know, that was where the challenges came in, because it was almost like, you know, he wanted to shine the most because he felt like this shit was his instead of ours, you know. But it was treated like it was ours, but, you know, he wanted to be the captain, you know what I'm saying? And I was so fucking competitive. And, you know, after a while, man, it was my work ethic and the acknowledgement for what I was doing and the requests that kept coming in for me on these features. And it wasn't the same with him. It started to create a little bit of jealousy and the internal conflict. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, you know, one thing led to another. And not too long after, I got kicked out the motherfucking group again. And that was it. I mean, yo, believe it or not, at the Hard to the Left concert, me and Brown fought right before we went on stage.
That's funny.
We fought backstage right before we went out there. And when we went out there, body shit like we ain't have a problem in the world. It was like bipolar shit. Like we 1 second we bugging out on each other, beefing. And as soon as we got to go to the stage, we high-fiving like, fuck it, let's go kill shit.
And if I'm not mistaken, when y'all got on the stage, it was fighting in there. Y'all were telling people, hey, y'all need to calm it down and be cool. We're here in peace. And y'all were just backstage.
Just backstage beefing. Yo, this shit was some 5 Heartbeat shit. For real, bro.
Got you.
It was 5 Heartbeat shit for real, bro.
And it's another side that people don't know of you that I know. I've only seen it once, but everybody that I know of that's worked with you, they tell me how meticulous you are. Like in your head, you know how you want it to be. Like on the show side, the reason you're such a good showman is like, oh, stop that. On this part, me and you gonna do this. You gonna break that down. Let's go.
That's a fact.
All right. And I used to do street team work back
right.
in the day. And I used to work all of the Electra stuff. And I would get you on a conference call. Right. And in my head, this is Busta Rhymes. I can't wait to hear Busta. Now, it wasn't the rapper Busta. it was the, how come my shit ain't up? How come my man that lived down in your town said he did not see these poster boards wrapped up at that
real shit. Real shit, bro.
And they don't know that part of you.
Right.
So
that's my mother. That's my mother. I got that from my mother. Word. Yeah.
So, and speaking of which, hold on, I got oldies but goodies.
Oh man.
Brother.
Oh, that's one of my favorite plaque designs that I've ever seen, bro. That's one of my favorite. That's the Coming When Disaster Strikes an Extinction Level Event.
And there you go.
Yeah, Renee McLean designed those and sent those out.
And let me tell you what's crazy.
And he made a very small few of those.
It doesn't have radio, it just has my name because I was working street team.
Wow. That shit is crazy, bro.
Hold on, it gets better, brother. We can't forget about this one.
Oh, that's a motherfucking fact. That's where it all began for me. That's when life changed forever for me, right?
That's that hip-hop black, man.
Absolutely, brother.
So, when you got to the point where you don't have to do the dragging all the time anymore.
Right.
You sitting down, you coming up with concepts for not only the songs, but the visuals.
Absolutely.
And when did you realize I am really good at this?
It all came together for me when I knew that I had to really take it up a notch once I went solo. Mm-hmm. Pressure made me start to, I just started to feel like I don't want to hear nobody telling me, because I was hearing the rumblings, like I was hearing do we want to hear Busta Rhymes screaming on every fucking record on a solo album? Like I was hearing that shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And back then I was a little more sensitive to what people thought and how they felt. So hearing that shit bothered me a lot because I was so comfortable in that space. Mm-hmm. But it also inspired the shit out of me to want to shut motherfuckers up by making that shit that they could never front on. So I started to think of the most outlandish shit that I could do. And I was like, fuck that. Anything can be done with the proper money and the proper support and having the proper team to execute the idea.
Right.
Because I had incredible friends that was super successful in the industry that was actually doing that had the money, that had the support systems, and one of them was called Diddy. Mm-hmm. He's like one of my closest friends ever. So, when I left Leaders and I went solo, and then he was giving birth to Bad Boy in 94. Right. And in 95, he put out the Big Mac campaign. I think the Jason Lyric movie was out at the time. Uh-huh. And he had put out the Craig Mack first single. He put out the Notorious B.I.G. first single. And he was running with that Big Mac campaign on the poster boards and in the fucking Big Mac Burger King fucking boxes and shit.
Yeah, the cassette was in there.
The cassette was in there. And I'm looking at this shit like, this shit is so fucking genius. So this is how it works when you got some money. This is how it works when you got a support system that knows how to execute. Because Diddy got a super bag to launch Bad Boy from Clive Davis. Right. By way of, Dallas Austin being the plug and introducing them to each other. Andre Harrell had just let Diddy go. So Diddy was forced to do the same thing. He had to go above and beyond Uptown Records so he didn't look like he couldn't live or be successful without them. He had to show motherfuckers he could live and be successful without them.
The same thing you were talking about is
the thing I was going through.
That you didn't want, you don't want nobody to see you not winning.
Nah, you can't have that. That's not an option ever, especially when you come from something that people held in a high regard. So that pressure was serious, and I was like, fuck that. I'm looking at Diddy, and he was like the first of the young Black executives. We never saw anybody from our demo, from our generation, be in the seat as an executive. Right. Especially when everybody was only trying to be artists. None of us was thinking about owning our own record company back then, at least not in the East Coast.
Right, no, I feel you. No, that's real.
A lot of that shit was happening in the South because a lot of artists was going independent out the gate to get on because they didn't have the access to all of the record companies that were in New York or in L.A. So the South they didn't have no choice. They had to go about it differently, right? So that's where the J. Prince comes in. Mm-hmm. But in New York, Diddy was the first Black executive to have a major distribution partnership deal. Okay. And I'm looking at this shit like, all right, so when you get money, this is how it looks, huh? You hire a fucking team of people to do what you want them to do. You could hire all the muscle you need to execute all the plays you're trying to execute. I like how this shit look, and I want it bad. Fuck that, I'm gonna get it. I'm not letting nobody limit what I'm thinking. I ain't letting nobody stagnate how I'm fucking imagining things. And I'm gonna shoot for the fucking moon to land on the stars, bro.
Right.
And that's what I did. All of these ideas, I started watching movies and shit. I'm looking at Coming to America when it came out. Terminator to Coming to America became Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Could See. Fucking Janet video was the Terminator 2 Liquid Robot movie. The Woo-Ha video concept just came from my album photo shoot for my coming album artwork.
Gotcha.
Every outfit I made, we created an environment to be color coordinated with my outfit.
Speaking of which, I never thanked you back in the day for the closet full of Bushi sweats.
Oh yeah. No, I might fucking relaunch that line, bro. Why
wouldn't you?
I mean, I just haven't really been in that space because for the last 11 years, I've been so stealth bomber focused on trying to make the most incredible cohesive body of work with Extinction Level Event 2, The Wrath of God. Since 2009, I have not even cared about my own personal well-being because I gave all of my attention to this music and this album. And that's why
this is an 11-year process on this album?
11 years making this album, bro. My publicist is going crazy. He trying to cut me off because we got other interviews to do. But let me finish saying this. It wasn't really a choice thing for it to be 11 years. It was more circumstantial, but it also was a lot of choice. I could have succumbed to my circumstances and I chose not to, which is still ultimately the choice. Every choice comes with an invoice. You have to be prepared to pay the price for the choices that you make. Great sacrifice went into those choices because at the end of the day, it was not convenient not putting out an album at retail for so long. It was fucking the bread up. It was fucking the bread up. You feel me?
Yeah.
Had to continue to dip in the stash because there wasn't a lot of bread coming through. The longer you don't put out music, as time goes by, the money slows down. Fortunately, I've done some pretty decent things with my bread, so I didn't really have to rely on the music money to come in. But then I was spending a lot of the money because I didn't have a home for this album for a long part of this journey. And I also had to bet on me and spend to be in that studio every day and spend to pay for the plane tickets and the hotels and the rental cars and the salaries for the team of people that had to move around with me. And I had to travel in different cities to get the collabs done.
Right.
You know, just trying to be at all of the things that I need to be at the right time to also make sure that my presence was still being felt. Going to the award shows, going to the events that I needed to be at to network and continue to try to politic other business and shit like that outside of music or even within music. You gotta spend to move and shake. Scared money don't make no money, but you also gotta be smart. And when there ain't enough money coming in, you now gotta start making decisions and be real selective with what you gonna show up at and what you need to fall back from.
And what we came up with is you prophesized it in 98.
Yes, sir.
And finally, 2020, Extinction Level Event 2.
The Wrath of God.
The greatest body of Busta work in one project. And I'm not saying that because it's new. I'm not saying it because you're on here. This is a beginning to end. Listen.
Thank you so much, King.
I mean, brother, you put out a video, you swimming with dolphins, you pulling people's organs out.
Swimming with sharks. With sharks.
With sharks. With turbans. I'm like, okay.
I'm back on my bullshit, brother. I'm back at it.
And I mean, you know, I want folks to stream it, to buy it.
Yes.
And I got it early. I'm not gonna lie, I got it early yesterday because I had to do a mix
You're supposed to. Come on, you're supposed to, brother. You're supposed to.
Please understand, that's purchased.
Oh man, thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much.
Not just because you're a friend of the program. That this is an amazing album.
Thank you, King. I put everything into it, man. My heart, my soul, my tears, my happiness, my sadness, my frustrations, my peaceful times when I was in a peaceful space. Every blood, sweat, drip, everything, brother. Everything that I could have ever given anything in life, I put it all in one body of work. And I've never done that on any album ever in my life, because I also wasn't as comfortable to share certain shit that I finally grew up to become comfortable enough to share. So yes, this is the first time in my entire 29-year career that I've actually given the people all of me in one body of work. And I hope y'all enjoy this shit, man, and just keep sharing it. Keep sharing it,
We could talk forever, but I respect the fact that you got work to do.
Thank you, King.
You got visuals in New York, E.L.E, Miami.
All over. We not fucking around this time, brother.
So I want to let you share what you have to say with everybody else around the world for the next few weeks and talk to them. But man, you got a home here in Richmond.
Thank you, brother.
I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you too. God bless you too. Let me shout my brothers Knots and the whole Teamster family. They are Virginia natives. That brother has been so significant in the Busta Rhymes sound. He produced on Extinction Level Event, the Final World Front, that was released 22 years ago in 1998 for the first time. That's when we first came together. And it's such a blessing to know that, the Most High kept us both alive and well and strong enough to be able to come back together 22 years later and whoop their ass again. To the whole world, thank y'all for your love, your patience, your support. God bless everybody. Please share this. Please appreciate this. Digest it. Listen to it. Experience it from top to bottom. Don't skip a song. Do yourself that favor.
Absolutely.
It's out on a hidden treasure here and there that's not even ID'd on the track list. That's just buried as treasures throughout the whole album. Appreciate the greatness. Salute. Thank you, King.
Brother, take care of yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. Peace.